Hello learners, welcome again to our session today. I am your instructor, CPA Aringo Fredrick. So in our class today, I want us to handle topic number 1. This is assurance and non-assurance engagement. And we've marked it with an asterisk, meaning that it is a very important topic that we must always have at the back of our mind. Assurance and non-assurance engagement. We talk about topic number 1. We are talking of topic 1. This is assurance and non-assurance engagement. Assurance and non-assurance engagement. Assurance and non-assurance engagement. Assurance and non-assurance engagement. So, looking at this case, even before we start on the same, as I had mentioned, we find that these topics, you're going to combine them. In this case, before even we look at assurance and non-assurance engagement, it will be very ideal and very important for us to understand, first of all, remember the main concept that we are looking at here is the aspect of auditing and assurance. So it will be very important, first of all, for us to understand what an audit is, what auditing is, who is an auditor. So it will be very important for us to understand all these terms. So to mark it correctly, we are going to look at this term. First of all, let us understand what is an auditing. Just from that word auditing, ideally you can clearly see that it is a kind of a process of doing what, my good student? It is an independent process, of course, of examining and expressing an opinion on the financial statements of an entity. So you'll find that you are talking of what you are talking about, that process of examining the financial statements of an enterprise with a view of expressing an opinion on the truth and fairness of what has been provided or what we've been given. So ideally, what you normally tend to say that auditors, they are always watchdogs for the shareholders. They are there as watchdogs, meaning that they should make sure that everything that we are preparing in relation to financial statements, everything has been kept as required. All the rules and regulations, all the compliance aspects have been followed in preparing these financial statements. I believe when you're looking at this in your financial reporting, you notice that it was upon us to prepare our financial statements of the company. Now, after you've prepared your financial statement as a company, here will come an auditor. The main work of an auditor, it will not to prepare, but he will be examining what you have prepared as an accountant. And many a times that's why you normally tend to hear what's the difference between an audited accountant, which we'll be looking at it later on. So the main work of the auditor is to examine these books. And as we've said, they are acting as the watchdog to the shareholders. They are working as a watchdog to the shareholders. So some of the key elements that I want us to understand here, I want us to understand this term. The first term that is very key, I want us to understand anytime we're talking about auditing, what do we mean? It will also be very important for us to understand what an audit is and who is an auditor. Who is an auditor? These are the most important terms that when we are introducing this concept of audit, we must always have at the back of our mind, because they'll always guide us, they'll always open our mind wide, and in such an event we'll find that audit will always be very sweet. Audit will always be very sweet. So introducing auditing, my good students, you can put it on paper. At the same time, we provided it on the notes there. I know you have the notes. So in this case, we normally tend to say that auditing is the independent examination of an expression of opinion and expression of opinion. So we are saying that key element, it is an independent. Kindly mark that word very correctly. It is an independent examination. 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 Sorry, this is independent E. It is an independent examination of an expression of an opinion. 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 An expression of opinion. An expression of opinion on the financial statements. On the financial statements of an enterprise. On the financial statements. Expression of an opinion on the financial statements. On the financial statements. Kindly, the one that I'm insisting is very key. So we are saying that it is an independent examination of and an expression of opinion on the financial statements. On the financial statements of an enterprise by an appointed auditor in pursuance to his appointment, and in compliance with any relevant statutory obligation. And in compliance with any relevant statutory obligation. So, what we can pluck from here is, at this point, you are saying that I'm looking at it as an independent examination of an expression of an opinion on the financial statement of an enterprise in pursuance to his appointment. That is what an audit is. That process, it is an examination. It is an examination, independent examination. So why are we insisting on independent? Because at this point, auditor is not an employee of the firm. Auditor is not an employee of the company, but instead is coming up in pursuance to his appointment and with any relevant statutory, act, at least for him to perform his task on expressing his opinion, which again I am insisting it should be very independent. It should be very independent. So that is what an auditing is. I know by now you can clearly state what an audit is, right? We've said an auditing is our process. Ideally, looking at audit, ideally, it is almost the same thing that we'll be repeating, because we normally tend to say that an audit is the objective examination and evaluation of the financial statements of an organization. The same thing. An audit is the examination and evaluation of the financial statements of an organization to make sure that the records are fair and accurate representation of transactions they claim to represent. So at this point, you are talking of it as an audit. The same concept we are talking about auditing. So, and what you should always have in mind, my good students, we normally tend to talk of two types of auditing, which we'll be looking at it later on. This audit can either be done internally or it can be done by external parties. So if it is being done internally, we will be talking about internal auditors. And for these guys who are coming outside to come and conduct the